y'all again, it's Yuki here. Hope you'll have a nice day, nice evening, everything. So today we'll be talking about Star Ocean, new game coming out. So today I wasn't able to get an actual speed paint ready for you guys to watch as I talk, sadly. I wanted to make it, Star Ocean based, but time really wasn't on my side, but I do have a good replacement. I actually went ahead and streamed a demo on my Twitch channel. I've still yet to figure out how to stream two separate scenes, or rather, if I even can. So you'll just be seeing snippets here and there of me playing the game and everything. And hopefully this won't be too boring for you all. All in all, I just really want to get my thoughts out before the actual game gets released. Alright, with that being said, let's start. I'll first start off with the series and how I came to know of it and everything like that. So the Star Ocean series is a long RPG series that has about 6 titles to its name and is developed by Tri-Ace and also published by Square Enix. It has your usual RPG elements of being in a fantasy world, but with a twist of galactic space. Funnily enough, most of the games kinda start like the same. You have a main character that is from one really futuristic developed area, and now they have somehow ended up on an underdeveloped area and have to navigate their way back to where they're from, but then they get involved in problems that mean the end of the world by the end of the game. Now, my experience with the series is actually pretty simple. It all started with the third game, which was Star Ocean Till the End of Time. One Thanksgiving, my cousin was playing the game and I loved the characters, especially Pepita since she was darker skinned. The magic and moves all looked pretty cool, so when I went back home, I was able to get a PS2 and also the game, and that's basically history. I loved the story and the models looked nice. I mean, I could even go deeper, but we have to move on from this small story. The next installment of the game, which was Star Ocean The Last Hope, was also an interesting one to me. Since I didn't have an Xbox at the time, I basically resorted to going on YouTube and just watching the walkthroughs from there. I remember a good chunk of the characters, but the storyline is a little bit lost on me from that particular game. Overall, I had a good experience and good vibes with this whole entire series. That's why I'm pretty psyched about Divine Force coming through in the next coming weeks. Okay, now that we have my inner thoughts out the way, we can begin with the demo. The social media for the game series has given us the overall descriptions and looks at the characters, as well as some tidbits about the overall gameplay to come. Just recently, or about a couple weeks ago, the developers released a new trailer for the game. It debuted in the Tokyo Game Show along with a theme song that was cool to hear. Soon after, they released a demo on the 20th. I downloaded this demo and was ready to be given some ideas on what the game would be about. This is what I'll be talking about since I'm pretty excited with anticipation and just want to talk about it somewhere. This demo was about 2-ish hours long. The one thing I had to keep in mind actually while I was playing this demo was that this was a demo, meaning that obviously the game is still in development. Some textures, objects, and stuff like that are still being rotated, moved around, changed, and everything, so it may look a little bit off, but it'll get better. Of those 2-ish hours, there was about enough content that I played through to honestly say the demo was worthwhile. I'll now be talking about my experience and / reactions. Okay, to start off the whole experience, you had the opening. Okay, I got very excited by the opening music and the opening sequence. It really gave that space feel for one, and was a very nice reminder that this was a Star Ocean game. The series is known for having nicely made graphics, especially when it comes to space cutscenes, so it was very nice in giving that nostalgia trip. We then got to the player character for this demo, which is Raymond Lawrence. I believe in the official game you'll get to pick between him or Letitia, but in this demo is automatically Raymond. The first thing I noticed was that the ship that we start in, with Raymond as a captain, reminded me a lot of the Last Hope's ship. Now, that's not a bad thing at all, it just gave me a small reminder of the previous couple games. And to be honest, I'm pretty sure the same can be said for Star Ocean 3 as well. Next up, we meet Chloe and Elena, who are aboard the ship. I'm very curious actually to find out more about Elena's personality. She really gave off that Rei Ayanami vibes too, so that's interesting. Even Chloe was adorable with how much she worried a bit in the beginning sequence at all. Now was the time that we looked at the model for Raymond. I enjoyed looking at the turtleneck sleeveless sweater type of style he had going on. The model was actually pretty good and looked nicely structured. It reminded me a lot of Edge from Star Ocean The Last Hope, and also Fate from Star Ocean Till the End of Time. Yeah, you're gonna be hearing those two references a lot since those are the only two games I ever played. That might be because I think the way the bottom, like the lower half of his character model has that clunky armor, so it makes sense a little bit because it looks just like both Edge and Fate. And yes, his hair does look like a chicken, but we don't talk about that. Next up, the ship was then actually attacked and then damaged, and then all the members had to escape. This is where the usual storyline of a Star Ocean game starts to kick in. Basically, Raymond, who's the main character, ends up on an underdeveloped planet. A few moments later, the other two main characters come in, Albert and Letitia. One thing for sure is I do also love Albert's design. From the earrings to the outer coat layer thingy and his turtleneck as well. And Letitia is just as nice too. I love her poofy skirt along with her armor. I just like how it seems regal but still also ready for battle. I also loved the interaction between Letitia and the phone too. I'm pretty sure I felt that she and Albert were confused on how a person's voice can come out of an object. It honestly had me chuckling the whole entire time. After that, we had some fighting tutorials about the battle. Now, they were pretty informative. They even had pictures and all, and even examples here and there. See, the problem with that is, well, I'm more of an action person, so that means I learned by going through the hard way. But for anybody else, like a regular person, they were pretty helpful when I was patient enough to read through them. The battle system wasn't that hard once I remembered how the other games went. You have your usual long press and short press, and everything else just like that in a usual, once again, Star Ocean game. The exploration was pretty fun too, even though it was a demo, like especially the jumping. I was very excited to explore all the areas I could during the stream. The ruins area was interesting because you could look through each room and explore around the area by walking and running everywhere. I also liked how you could jump anytime you wanted and not have fall damage too. Although honestly speaking, I feel like adding fall damage would probably make it more funnier though. The skybox was another thing I enjoyed looking up at too. It was very vibrant and pretty. The ruins boss was pretty simple and easy, although I think that was because they wanted to introduce the Duma system in a way that would be more easier to do. In general, the system kind of had me a bit off guard with all the things you could do with it. For example, one of the few things you could do was actually fly everywhere, and because of that, I will admit, I did fall a couple of times, but only because I was freaked out during flight. Even after the ruins, it was still fun. I basically ran through about 3 fields to the whole stream. The second field was pretty big and really gave that open worldness feel. But then I got hit by nostalgia again in the third field. The reason being is because of one special monster that I'll be talking about later on. At the end of this field was a short cutscene of entering into another town and then meeting another character, Nina DeForges. And that about wraps up my whole experience step by step. But next up, I'll be talking about certain parts that really stuck out to me in both concerning and positive ways. Okay, first was the music. I have a huge love for video game soundtracks, and so I was ready to hear what the game had so far. Of the times I've played Star Ocean 3, each of the soundtracks was worth listening to, and for some reason had a jazzy or futuristic theme to it, and I can see that it's been done in this game too. I noticed it in the beginning scene, the ruins area, and the battle music. There was something in it that was very distinct about it that the composer, Motoi Sakuraba, did well in. It really gave that nice, once again, nostalgia of the game, so that was one positive point. In terms of environment, when you look up, you can see this amazing skybox above you, along with some cloud mechanics that moved and disappeared here and there. Now, while I find that they created a very beautiful skybox, I'd love to see it animated or maybe moved around a bit with some mechanics. It's just that in my opinion, it seemed really static, and while it looks pretty to see, it just feels a bit off since it's so pretty but also so stiff. If it moves, I think I can honestly stand there and stare at it all day. Another thing is the jumping. At first, I liked the idea of jumping since it gives a chance to maybe dodge some attacks and climb up on surfaces. But then I got into a little trouble after trying to get an item. I wasn't able to jump my way back out the ditch that I went into that easily. I slid on a few rocks trying to get out, and it was a kind of a bit annoying trying to remember how I got in so I can get out. For a solution, I think maybe having different textured rocks to tell the difference should be helpful. I know that they want to keep the immersion, but that jumping might be a problem later if not fixed. Now for the open world, it was very nice. It felt like I could be an explorer and look at every nook and cranny. There were treasure chests here and there, being guarded by enemies. It felt nice having to whip out a sword anytime I wanted since monsters can come from anywhere. All in all, very immersive. But I did have some issues with the frame rate dropping a bit. I'm not sure whether it was maybe on my end or not, but it felt a bit laggy, especially when like whipping out the shiny attacks and combos and everything, even with the Duma system. I was thinking maybe it was because of the demo or something, but either way, I hope it's not going to be a big issue. Other things to note are the battle system as a whole. For this game, you get a companion called Duma. With this buddy, it can make the whole battle system take a huge turn by using surprise attacks and blindsiding. You can also float around and aim at enemies, dealing heavy damage. I've only ever used these three main features the most, but there's a lot more according to the instruction. But in all seriousness, I can see how this can change the tide for those who prefer to sneak around, and especially when your player's AP, which is Fury from Star Ocean 3, runs low. It's actually pretty funny because the slingshot part where you can fly around reminds me a lot of Noctis and his engine blade. I'm pretty sure I'll be falling a lot off edges till I get the hang of it though. The best part for me that I liked are the skill tree sets you can upgrade as you level up. I may not have obviously maxed out anything much, but I was able to unlock some things and cruise around the perks on each character's tree. It was a nice mix of passive and active skills too. The points needed for them though did make me choke a bit, but I love unlocking and completing things, so this is right up my alley. It kind of gives me something to work towards too as well. Now on to the characters. Now for them, all I can say is that Square Enix is at it again with the cool looking characters. I know that their social media account for the series have been releasing character profiles for a good chunk of the main cast now, and I only really took glances at them because I didn't want to spoil anything. During the demo, I really liked Letitia and Raymond's banter lines, especially with the whole seeing a phone for the first time scene for Letitia. I liked Raymond's part because he just seemed pretty laid back, but still confident as a captain. I don't know why, but his voice sounded so chill and just honestly really fit him well. Even Albert was interesting too. For some reason, he reminds me a lot from Abel from Star Ocean 3. His whole aloofness adds to his charm. I love how he tried to be all big and important, but he just really wants to protect Letitia. Characters like that are interesting because there's more to him than the harsh front he puts up. I even remember that he mentioned that Letitia has a predisposition for being reckless, so that really gave off that big brother feel. Elena and Chloe are the other two that I'm interested in as well. I'd love to know them a whole lot more than when the game comes out. Both are part of the ship's crew, so I'm excited to see how they'll turn out to be like. We also meet one more character called Nina, but we only heard a few lines from her, and like I said, I'm also interested in her because she looks adorable for starters, and it looks like she knew something, especially from Albert's outfit towards the end of the demo. For the good old fans of the series, I'm glad to say that there are some similarities that help make this game the new child of the Star Ocean series. Things like the enemy, some terminology, the beginning story of being, in a highly developed planet and then in an underdeveloped planet. Even the sound effects were great and connected this game to the series. For example, the last time I mentioned that the third field gave some nostalgia was because some of the monsters that appeared in that area reminded me a lot of Star Ocean 3. For example, the mushroom caps and the possessed tree that likes to fling things around and everything. I also like how you don't have to play the other games to understand the story. Much like most of the games in the series, except for a few, they don't have anything to do with each other that much. It's kind of like Final Fantasy, Some terms are held out, through all the games, but they don't really relate to each other outside of that. You can still play the other titles, which you should, but it's not really necessary. I think the positive here is that it allows for more people to come to the series. By making it more standalone, more new fans can come play Divine Force, which might make them curious to play the other titles. All in all, pretty good for a demo in the end. The demo probably showed what the developers had made and done. The battles are just as pretty, and even though it's currently in development, I'm looking forward to the game and rooting for the game developers. The series has always fascinated me, so doing this video was nice and fun. Well, like how I usually say, that wraps it up on my end. It was basically a nice nostalgia info trip, and I hope you all enjoyed it just as well. See you guys next time, and I hope to see y'all soon. Bye bye.